The air felt different this morning. Heavy, like a blanket of forgotten dreams. Yvon woke up with a hum in his bones, a low, steady vibration that wasn't there yesterday. He looked out his window. The sky was its usual pale blue, but something felt off. The birds were quiet. The wind held its breath. It was the kind of stillness that comes before a storm, or maybe before a big secret finally decides to show its face. Yvon knew this feeling. It was a cousin to the feeling he had 10 years ago, on the day the world changed forever. He walked downstairs, the old floorboards creaking under his feet. His mother was already in the kitchen, staring into a cup of tea as if it held all the answers. She didn't have to ask. She knew he felt it too. On the table, waiting for him, was a small, leather-bound book. It was his grandmother's journal. Its pages were filled with her elegant, looping handwriting, stories of their family, and strange, cryptic notes. He had read it 100 times before, but today his mother pointed to a single page, her finger trembling just a little. Yvon traced the words with his own finger. The ink was faded, but the message was clear. It was a phrase his grandmother used to whisper to him like a lullaby, a secret just for them. "Everything you seek above," the journal read, "you can find beneath the water." He had always thought it was just a silly saying, a bit of poetry from an old woman who loved riddles. But today, reading it felt different. The words pulsed with the same energy that hummed in his chest. It wasn't just poetry anymore. It was a map. He looked at his mother. Her eyes were filled with a mixture of fear and hope, a look he knew so well. She nodded slowly, giving him the permission he didn't know he was waiting for. This was it. The journal wasn't just a collection of memories. It was a guide. It was a promise from his grandmother, reaching out to him from the past. The quiet morning suddenly felt loud, filled with unspoken instructions and a destiny he had to meet. The hum in his bones was a song, and he was finally ready to listen. 10 years ago. The memory was always there, just under the surface. It was called the Skyfall Event, a night when the sky didn't just have stars. It had rivers of glowing blue light. They rained down, beautiful and silent and strange. Yvon was just a boy, holding his grandmother's hand as they watched from the porch. The world held its breath then, too. It was beautiful, like a million blue comets dancing just for them. But beauty can be a beast. And that night, the world broke a little bit. When the blue light faded, people were gone. Not everyone, just some. His grandfather was one of them. He had been in the garden, and when the family rushed out to find him, there was nothing but a patch of grass that glowed with a soft blue light for a week. They weren't the only ones. All over the world, families were missing pieces. There was no explanation, no bodies, just empty spaces where loved ones used to be. The world was left with questions and a strange new gift. Some of the children born after the skyfall, and some who were young when it happened, developed unusual powers. Yvon was one of them. He could make things float, small things, like a pencil or a leaf. He never told anyone but his mother and grandmother. His grandmother wasn't surprised. She just smiled and held him close. "Our family has always had a little magic," she'd said. His mother, however, was more cautious. She told him to hide it, to keep it secret. She remembered the skyfall differently. She remembered seeing something else in the sky that night. Not just light, but a shape, a silhouette. It was a door, his mother had whispered to him one night, long after the skyfall. A door opened in the sky, and it took them. That's what she believed. It wasn't an ending, it was a passage. His grandfather hadn't vanished. He had walked through a door. Now, holding his grandmother's journal, Yvon understood. The journal, the skyfall, the missing people, and the strange hum in his chest. It was all connected. A story waiting for its final chapter to be written, and he was the one holding the pen. Yvon drove his old truck down the winding dirt road. The reservoir was 5 miles out of town, a place most people avoided. They said the water was unnaturally cold, even in the heat of summer. They said things went missing there. The journal didn't name the reservoir, but it didn't have to. Yvon just knew. The humming in his soul grew stronger the closer he got, pulling him forward like a rope. He parked the truck and walked toward the edge of the water. It was vast and still. a perfect mirror reflecting the pale blue sky. He stood at the water's edge, the damp earth cool beneath his worn boots. He thought of his grandmother. He remembered her smile, the way she told stories that felt more real than reality. She was brave. She wasn't afraid of anything. And she had left this path for him to follow. He took a deep breath. The air smelled of wet stone and secrets. Was he brave enough? The water looked dark and deep. The thought of stepping into it sent a shiver of fear down his spine. It was the fear of the unknown. But then he thought of his grandfather. He thought of the empty chair at the dinner table, a space that was never filled. He thought of the millions of others who were lost to the skyfall. Everything you seek above, you can find beneath the water. The words echoed in his mind, no longer a riddle, but a promise. What if his mother was right? What if there was a door? Not in the sky, but here, hidden, waiting. The fear was still there, but now something else was there too. A flicker of hope, a spark of courage. He took off his boots and his shirt. The sun was warm on his skin, but the air coming off the water was cold. He waded in. The cold was a shock, sharp and sudden, stealing his breath. It felt like stepping into another world. He went deeper, the water rising to his waist, then his chest. The humming was all around him now, a symphony inside the water, inside his own heart. He was scared, yes, but he was also ready. He was Yvon, grandson of a storyteller, son of a survivor, and this was his story to finish. He took one last deep breath and plunged his head beneath the surface. The world went silent. The cold was absolute. For a moment, there was only darkness and the muffled beat of his own heart. He opened his eyes, expecting nothing but murky brown water. But that's not what he saw. The water was clear. Not just clear, it was glowing. A soft blue light pulsed from below, the same impossible blue from the skyfall. It illuminated a world of swirling colors and shimmering energy. He wasn't sinking. He was floating. The humming was no longer just a feeling. It was a visible force. It was the light. It was the water. It was everything. He felt no need to breathe, no pressure in his chest. He was light, weightless. He stretched out his hands, and the glowing water swirled around his fingers like a living thing. There was no fear left in him now, only a profound sense of wonder and belonging. He finally understood. His grandmother hadn't just left him a clue. She had left him an inheritance. This magic was in his blood. He looked down, deeper into the light. The blue energy was coalescing, twisting and turning until it formed a perfect circle. It was a hole in the water, a gateway that shone with the light of 1,000 stars. A door. His mother was right. She had just been looking in the wrong place. This was the way. This was the answer to the 10-year-old question that had haunted his family and the entire world. It was a moment of perfect, terrifying clarity. The past and the present were connected by this glowing, watery portal. He let himself drift downward toward the door. As he got closer, he could see through it. He saw a sky he didn't recognize, filled with strange constellations. He was falling, but it felt like flying. He looked at the surface of the door, and for a split second, he saw his own reflection. But it wasn't a reflection of the scared boy who had stood at the water's edge. This reflection was smiling. It was the face of someone who had found their way home. And then he fell through.